Hey guys, today I'm going to be going over things that I expect to happen in Theme Park Tycoon in 2023. Now, you might be wondering, Maliboomer, did you already do a video like this? Yes, and literally a few days later, it became instantly irrelevant because the 1 billion update was announced a few days later. So literally everything I said in that video probably won't happen. Now, I've actually made a really modest guess of like things that I think could easily come to Theme Park Tycoon this year. And we're going to be going over everything just in 1 second, but before we get into any of that, 95% of the people that watch this channel right here aren't actually subscribed. So make sure you go down below, smash that subscribe button. And anyways, let's just get straight into today's video. Hey guys, so welcome back to a brand new video. And today we're going to be going over some things that I expect will happen in the next year in Theme Park Tycoon. And now I actually have a lot of reasons to believe that these things are going to be added. You see, when I did my last video, you know, there wasn't really any proof or any evidence that might point towards these things being added. But these things that I will be talking about today have very real evidence that they could possibly be added to the game. So today's video will be a very interesting one, and yeah. But let's just get straight into it. So the very first thing that I think will be added in the next year into Theme Park Tycoon is switch tracks. And now that is a very like obvious one because we just got drop tracks, so of course we're probably gonna get switch tracks in the next few updates. But here's the thing with switch tracks. See, drop tracks definitely was a lot to add to the game, but it didn't really change the dynamics of how coasters work, because you see, a drop track, it still just goes like forward, right? For instance, if this was an elevator, right, it would just go up here, and the only difference between a chain lift and an elevator is it would just go up there, and then boom, you know, that's the elevator. Now with switch tracks though, you can literally switch the direction of track. There would be multiple angles. Like for instance, if there was a switch track here, you know, it could go backwards, it could go forwards, it could go any direction, and it's definitely a way more complex system to make into Theme Park Tycoon. So that's probably why we haven't gotten them yet, but I'd probably be willing to guess that we will get these in Theme Park Tycoon. If we literally got drop tracks, we'll probably get switch tracks, because I remember Dennis saying that drop tracks were literally impossible, and now we have them in the game. But I feel like that's a pretty obvious one. Everybody's been wanting switch tracks forever. I'd say that's probably the most recommended update to Dennis, maybe outside of some more things we're gonna talk about later in the video. But I mean, yeah, switch tracks will probably come in the next year. I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe it'll come for the 7th year anniversary update. That should be kind of cool. I hope he does do an anniversary update, because there wasn't really one on the 5th year anniversary, which was kind of sad. But man, this game's gonna be 7 years old. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Anyway, though, we're gonna go on to the next thing I think will be added, and this is actually a ride. We're gonna go through a few rides in this video, but this ride is something that really I wouldn't be shocked if it got added. But I'll actually go through a few of the rides that I think are going to be added. So the very first one I think will have an update is the River Rapids ride. Like, it's the only ride now in the game that hasn't gotten an update. And the reason why I think it isn't being added yet is because I'm willing to guess that if he makes a River Rapids ride, it's going to be way more advanced. Like, I would be willing to bet it would work like an actual River Rapids ride where the boat is actually flowing through the route freely. See, Roller Coaster Tycoon actually had something like this. It had like a free-flowing River Rapids ride, and that was sick. That is definitely a way more complex system to make, because you're pretty much having to make physics not only for water, but like the rapids and like how the boat will interact with the environment. That is a lot to make, so that's probably why we haven't gotten in the game yet. But it's really the only rapids like water ride we haven't seen updated in Theme Park Tycoon, and honestly I wish it was. Now I don't really know if the swan boats will ever get updated, or like the Nautic Jet. I don't even think the Nautic Jet really needs to be updated, but I really think though the River Rapids ride in the next year will probably get an update, and I really hope it does. Now the next thing that I think will get an update in Theme Park Tycoon that I'm actually really hoping it does, because this is actually like one of my favorite coasters to build with in the game, but this is also another fairly complex coaster, but he already did all of the math and already has it completely figured out. Now this coaster might not make a lot of sense on like how it's complex, but I'll actually explain it to you. This coaster is the single rail coaster, and this is like a completely unique roller coaster that probably required a lot of advanced geometry to do, because you see this, look at how smooth that is. Like that requires a lot, and that is completely different from like, you know, getting a roller coaster like this, because you can see it's way easier to bend it. You know, doing the math on that is totally different than something like, oh, I'm trapped, on parts like this that are just completely flat. And you can also see with this, Dennis didn't actually fully complete this one correctly. Like, you can see that there's actually bugs. Like, if you like make it a more rapid at angles, like if we twist it and then we make it go up, like what, we're gonna bug it out, and then we make it it really tight. Look at that. You can see like there are cracks in it. It's not like fully done, and that was a little bit of a bug with it. But now I actually think that this could be a lot more realistic, because now I think Roblox has mesh deformation, so he could literally make like all the different track pieces and like deform the mesh to be actually around it. I'm pretty sure that's what Planet Coaster does. But this is definitely a coaster I would expect to be updated. It's literally the last coaster pretty much that hasn't been updated. Like, all of these coasters have been updated. The only coasters he has to update now are coasters that were made in like the last year or two, which I definitely think he should. Like, I think he should revisit the mine train. It's looking a little old. Also think of the hyper coaster might need an update, and the track on the Beyond Vertical Launch coaster isn't that great. But those are all things added fairly recently, and honestly, I don't really care if they get updated. Like, they're great. But this is definitely a coaster that needs to get updated. It just doesn't look that great. It needs some improvement. But that's why I think that this coaster will definitely get updated in the next year. But guys, we have just scratched the surface of things that I think will get added. And now, these next things I'm going to talk about, I think there's actually proof to them might being added to the game. So you guys might have seen there was a new ride called the Inverted Powered Dark Ride. Pretty much, you can actually rotate the seats on these. And that is really interesting to note, because now I'm wondering, will we get a trackless dark ride in Theme Park Tycoon? That is something we haven't had updated yet. Our original dark ride is very old, and I hate the system it uses, because it is very weird and it's hard to build with. As you can see, when like it's just weird. You use track pieces, and the issue with this is you can't like actually adjust the speed and the track rotation. It doesn't work properly. It's an old system, and I would really love to see this one revisited. But because we got the inverted powered coaster, I actually think that will be on the line very soon, because now the actual programming side of it is completely done. Because this coaster is actually way more advanced than anything that a trackless dark ride would be. Because look, you can see the seat rotation thing is already in the game now. I mean, it already was from the X2 style coaster, but I mean, this is pretty much the groundwork for a trackless dark ride. And I honestly think it will come to the game. The game really needs it. And I'm really hoping we get it into the game too, because I swear trackless dark rides are like my favorite ride, not only in real life, but I honestly think as well that they're just such a cool ride. I made one. You actually look it up on my channel. It's an old video. It's called Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and they are the funnest things to build. Like, it is so cool because you don't know where you're going. It's so much fun. I definitely think still that even now, that's probably one of the coolest rides in Theme Park Tycoon. I haven't really seen anyone like fully make a trackless dark ride like I did. I'd love to see someone do it better than I did. I was the best builder, I ain't gonna lie. Now, the next thing that I think will get added to Theme Park Tycoon is rain. Like, just weather in general. I think we will get a weather update to the game. Now, there isn't any proof relating back to this, but I honestly think it's just such an easy thing to implement, and not only that, it would change the environment of the game. I mean, we actually tested this out on a video a while back. It was where I changed the graphics of Theme Park Tycoon, and we were actually able to add stuff like fog and rain, and it just looked beautiful. I'll probably have some stuff on screen of me walking around with fog and all that on. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think it would just add so much immersion to the game, and I think as well you could build upon that. Like, for instance, you could have like an umbrella stall where guests will buy umbrellas when it starts raining, and then all the guests whip out their umbrellas. I just think something like that would make the game so much more dynamic and way more fun to play, and I'd be very interested to see if Dennis actually adds something like that. And it's a very easy system to implement too, like I mentioned. I actually pointed out someone who made it. It was Bill Thomas. He made a rain system that almost every game uses, and it's so realistic, and it was actually used on a Roblox official event. It's really cool, and something like that would only take 2 seconds for Dennis to add to the game, and I think it would go such a long way, and I'm still really hoping we get it in the game at some point. But yeah, weather would be pretty awesome. But let's go on to our next thing, which I think is staff. Okay, I have pointed this out. There's actually things leading to a brand new staff system coming to the game. First off, first and for all, Water Park Tycoon actually has working functional staff. You place a booth, there's no one behind the booth, and there are people that go in and put crates onto each thing. It's really cool. It works the exact same way as Parkitect and Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo work. It's a very awesome system, and I think that really added something to Water Park World. But now, we recently got all of these new stalls out of the game, but do you notice something? There's no guests behind these. Wait, was there always particles on this booth? Wait, what? Do you guys remember that? Were there always particles on the burger booth? I don't remember that, but there was always a guest right back here whenever you would like place it down. But you can see there's guests here, right? But before, you used to be able to see the guest. Now, the only reason that would make sense that it was removed is that Dennis might be making a staff system into Theme Park Tycoon. This would be a very complex and hard to make system because you are pretty much reworking guest AI, you are reworking staff AI. It is a completely new system, and it would also change the mechanics of the game. Now, I've heard from people that they say that they would really want this update and people that say they really don't, but personally, I think it's an awesome idea to see staff, you know, roaming around your park. I think it just adds a little bit more liveliness to your park. I mean, we've already seen it with these new stalls because you can see guests eating food, you can see them throwing out trash, you can see them holding a balloon. I mean, that's just cool. I think seeing staff unloading crates and depositing around the park is really awesome. And I think as well, it would add some cool stuff like, for instance, in Parkitect, they have staff-only guest ways. So, for instance, you could build like a utilidor system, like for instance, what Disney World has, where you build underneath your park and have staff routes all underneath connecting staff from point A to point B. I think it would be really cool. I've heard different arguments saying that it wouldn't be because it could ruin money farms, but I've actually kind of talked to Dennis a little bit about this. Dennis actually acknowledges money farms, and I don't think he will ever patch them. They're a pretty integral part to the game, and especially for the people that want to build, you know, sandbox stuff. Because like all of us, we've already completed Theme Park Tycoon once. We don't need to complete it again and again and again every time we want to build something. And I think Dennis realizes that. So I don't think money farms will get patched if we do get staff added to the game. But I do think it would add a totally new perspective on how Theme Park Tycoon works, and I think it would just be awesome. I really do. And as well for the Tycoon players, they would especially enjoy it because it's an entirely new mechanic that would add a lot to the gameplay. But I really hope staff comes. I think staff will probably come this year. If I had to guess on like an anniversary update, if he ends up doing that, my guess is it would probably come for the anniversary update. Now, he's never done an anniversary update, but Dennis has been rolling out more features and stuff, so he might do an anniversary update this year. I don't know though, I'm gonna get a little speculative, but anyways, I want to go to my last thing I am hoping the most actually comes back to Theme Park Tycoon. And now this is something Dennis has no control over, and it was honestly something that really was something major that was taken from the game. I'm gonna be honest, the game's never really been the same since. It's been kind of hollow. Music in this game was a huge thing. There used to be a jukebox game pass, and we still have all the different things, and they still work. So this is something more of Roblox needs to add back, but pretty much what this used to be is you could play music in your park. You could have different sections that would play different music. You could have shows that would play music. You could like set sequences. So like for instance, you know, on the Hulk where like it screams when the ride launches, you could do something like that. You could have really immersive pre-shows. You could have park-wide announcements. You used to be able to do so much with these, and it really took a lot away from the game in my opinion. I think as well, like for dark rides and stuff, that's what really got taken away the most, because it's like you can't really hear anything. You're just kind of meandering around and just looking at things. But before, you used to be able to hear the story and understand what's going on. It just made rides so much more livelier, and same with park. This is something I really hope Roblox returns back, which is making audio so you can actually go ahead and set them into every single game. Pretty much what they did around, I think almost a year, maybe a little bit longer than that now. Pretty much what they did is they made it so music just completely shut off. So like the only music that you could make is what the music the developer made. And this pretty much killed all of the music in almost every game, Bloxburg, all of that. But Roblox promised that they would go ahead and return this. I don't know if it'll come back. If it's coming back, it's coming back this year. If not, it's not coming back. Because that means it'll have been over 2 years since audio's been removed. But I'm really hoping it has some return. But if hypothetically it doesn't, I say Dennis adds something completely new. I say he just gets an audio library and goes ahead and upload it, sort of like what Planet Coaster and all these other coaster simulation games have, just so we can play music, you know, of like maybe a show or maybe some ride. I think that would be really cool. Like this is something that Planet Coaster has. They have default sounds, and I mean that would be a good way to implement it back if Roblox never decides to. But guys, I think this is pretty much goes over all the things that I think will be added to Theme Park Tycoon in the next year. I know I already did this video already, but I mean it literally got outdated within a few days, and I really wanted to cover things that I actually think will be coming this year. Like all of these things I think have evidence that they could come. But anyways, gamers, I think this is gonna be where I wrap up today's video. If you like today's video, make sure you go down below, smash that subscribe button. But anyways, gamers, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye everyone.